everybody. Thank you. We're excited to have Nicki Stoller, co-owner of Boone County Jail Distillery out of Lebanon, Indiana, a proudly female and veteran-owned distillery. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
So we ask everybody the same question. It's where you come from, where you've been, and where you're going.
Okay, where we come from, northwest suburbs of Chicago. Currently, the distillery is in Lebanon, Indiana. We took an old jail out on the town square and turned it into a distillery. And where we're going, I guess we're in 6 states so far, and we're headed to our 7th, which will be Texas coming up shortly.
Okay, nice. How does a distiller get into a state? What does that process look like?
So you have to find a distributor. It's really hard to find the right distributor with the right book that you feel would represent your products well. Being a small distillery, sometimes it's hard to get on, people's radar. So finding a distributor that knows how to represent small distilleries and really embrace the craft. It's a little bit of a different sell than selling, let's say, Tito's, stuff like that.
Okay, just from a brand recognition standpoint?
Exactly, and how to sell it, and there's maybe used to selling mass amounts of cases. We want to be doing that too, but first we just got to get our foot in the door in a lot of these places.
So is it access and awareness or volume? Like, what challenges do you run into as you're entering a new market?
Awareness, really just activating certain pockets of certain states, like going into a town and, really trying to get people in that town behind the process, really has been working well.
Okay.
I don't think that people realize, just starting in one town, maybe it's 10,000 people, and trying to get, all those people on your product and passionate about it. It's like last weekend we were doing a festival in Johnson County, and the amount of people we got to talk to, and just know moving forward that those people will probably, consider your products strongly.
And it's micro, so even at a national brand scale, it's the individual conversations that move product.
Exactly.
Very
it's
nice.
A lot of fun, and I think it's so important as an owner being active in front of consumers. Honestly, I get a lot of ideas from consumers. We're launching a product hopefully this summer, and I got the idea from a consumer.
Nice.
Someone being like...
Is it a reveal here? Can you sneak peek it, or...?
Oh, we'll get to it. I'll tell you, because if it's not out by August, I'm going to be really upset.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
And how does one end up in the distiller profession?
So that's a good question. We're 3rd generation whiskey entrepreneurs. So the 1st generation, my grandfather had trucks, and he delivered all the liquor and wine distributors' products to places in Chicago. My dad and uncles worked those trucks, and then eventually my dad had this idea that, he saw a need that there needed to be one more distributor. So that's when he started his company.
Nice. And started it under the brand Boone County Jail, and that's...
Actually, Stoller Wholesale.
Okay.
Boone County Jail came later in our story. So he, a lot of the old, mid-sized distributors were going out of business, so my dad said, hey, why not? He was 24 at the time, and he's like, I'll work a buck-off case, and, everyone called him crazy at that point, but it ended up working out.
It's crazy. A number of the distillers that we've interviewed and even had casual conversations with, it is a family business, and they're carrying on the traditions. So, in talking with some other distillers, spirits are federally regulated, and the craft beer industry per se is usually state regulated. Is that correct? So you can see a lot of the CBD infused beers now. You don't get that luxury to expand to a new market with distilled spirits.
I don't remember exactly who said it, but they said that the spirits are like the ugly stepchild that no one likes. All of these rules are pretty progressive with beer and wine, but for some reason spirits just, we're the last ones to see regulation in our favor.
Interesting. And there's still some ridiculous laws on the books. I know in Chicago that beer is still cash on delivery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I didn't either until talking to one of the craft brewers, and we always think of legislation that still exists that might seem a little dated or leave room for manipulation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it is crazy.
So, proudly female and veteran owned. Who's the veteran in the family?
My brother.
Your
So I have
brother.
2 brothers. My one oldest brother, he was the one that actually started this with my dad. At the time, I was still in college, and my other brother was still serving. And then I made my way into the industry slowly but surely.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you for your service. We appreciate all of our veterans, and we will cheers to you later.
Yes, we will.
So, Lebanon, Indiana, the downtown, the county seat. Talk to me about the facility and what you guys have done to it.
So it was built, I believe, in 1830s. It was in use until 1992.
As a functioning jail?
As a functioning jail until 1992. Actually, still, when I'm doing tastings in Boone County, people will be like, I was in there one night because I was underage drinking. And I'm like, well, now we're a distillery.
Nice.
So we've really come full circle. But it's the same lever system as the one in Alcatraz, which is pretty interesting. Okay. I had a beer group out of Indy. They were like, can you, we did a little private tasting. They tasted through everything. They were like, can you lock us in one of the cells? And I was like, I've never actually done the lever system. I don't know if that's a good idea.
Geez.
And he was like, come on, I'm going to go Facebook Live. It'll be great.
I was going to say, do it for the gram, right?
And,
and
he did it. And, yeah, I had to tell him, I was like, I can't get it open. You got to cut the live, man. And I got it open. It was just a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no doubt. Everybody had a little panic room moment there.
Oh, for sure. We actually...
You've got the distillery, you've got sales in 6 states, you've got a restaurant tied to it.
We used to have the restaurant.
We're
trying to find someone to run a tasting room for us.
A tasting room for like tapas prior to drinks, or a cocktail
just
food
like
pairing,
a cocktail,
or just
honestly,
cocktail tasting,
very simple with food probably. Yeah. And landing on that decision, my dad was like, I can't imagine not having burgers. And I'm like, we're not having food.
Yeah.
We just need to do some sort of cheese board, super simple. The layout of the jail is very interesting, and it makes it a little harder to run something like a restaurant out of it.
Yeah, if it's not built for a restaurant, it oftentimes gets clunky in navigation.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily the most open floor plan because it's a bunch of jail cells. So, yeah.
You guys have incredible label art. Can you talk to me through the process of that and who you work with to do that, and how those decisions get made?
Yeah, her industry name is the Whiskey Ginger. She is extremely talented. She hand draws all the labels, actually. So all of like the line art, the sketches of Kennard and Drake on our labels, that was all hand drawn. As far as the bottle is also custom. We wanted to do something, strong and burly, just like what you would think a jail would be, very structurally sound.
Like a brick in the wall.
Yeah, so it kind of all comes together on the bottles. And we try to have the labels tell a story.
How do the different brands break out? Is it exclusively by product, or do you sell them as a batch when you're going in and trying to get shelf space? What does that look like? I
like to think that there's something for everyone. So all of them are very strategically priced the way that they're produced. Like the moonshines are $19.99. That's exactly what a moonshine drinker would spend on the moonshine. That's where all the competition is. So that's, for one area, but, what works in one store might not necessarily work in another store. So we have, maybe a little bit more artisanal products such as the gin, the barrel-aged gin, and the bourbons, and the vodka.
And the aging process. It seems, a couple of years back when it was craft beer, it was the chocolate ancho chili, sweetened rays. Now with anything that can go in a barrel, it's charred or not charred, right? The step before charring, and all these different things that can impact how the flavor of the spirit tastes.
So, for more specifically our Kennard and Drake bourbon, so we have barrels that are between 4 and 7 years old. Every time we go to batch a new bourbon, we taste through every single barrel, any barrel or over 4 at least. Okay. So we don't use anything younger than 4 in our straight bourbon. That's very important to us. So we taste through it all and we sort them by taste.
Is that an absorption of the flavor? Why no less than 4?
Because, well, marketing, and this is from being in the industry for so long. So the front of the label will say straight bourbon. And then sometimes if you could call it straight bourbon, but on the back you have to say aged 2 years or more. So something to be aware of as a consumer. If you're looking to buy a straight bourbon that's actually more than 4 years, make sure there's no age statement on the back. So we use over 4, so we don't have to put that label.
Okay, and that's where you get into these different brands that are the 6 or 8 or 10.
Yeah.
There's a 6, 10, 12 or...
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we were thinking about putting age statements on each batch, but we really tried to do every single batch to taste the exact same. Getting consistency between batches is really hard for small distilleries. The big distilleries, they're using over like thousands of barrels in a batch. We use way less than that because, one, our inventory, everything that goes into that. But we really try to get it consistent, and we're not scientists. We go strictly off our taste.
That was my next comment. Is I've seen a couple documentaries on that where they're interviewing either chemical engineers or food scientists that actually go in and have curated the right taste bud mix, and it's like, oh my goodness, the measurement of these things.
It's my brother has a pretty solid way of doing it. So he really likes Harry Potter.
Okay.
They do the sorting hat in Harry Potter.
Right.
I know nothing about it, but it's a barrel sorting hat, and that's how he sorts the barrels. So he'll say it's, more like this characteristic, so we'll put it in this quadrant, or this, and then he'll use 4 barrels from that, 3 from that, whatever the blend he decides how big the blend will be. It's interesting to watch, and I get to just taste everything at Barrel Proof, and it's super fun. And
okay, well, yeah,
a lot of laughing and sipping, and it's a whole family affair.
So, 99? When did you say? No, how long has the distillery been around?
2015, 16.
2015. Okay,
Yeah.
So a lot of pivots. None probably more integral than COVID.
Yeah.
And the transition from distiller to sanitization. Talk through that and how you guys survived and shifted during that.
So it was entering COVID, we were only in, I believe, 2 states. We did most of our expanding during this.
Interesting.
Yes.
More people drinking locked in their houses.
Yep. And, I was able to travel to a few different states and kick off the brands, and while some states were like, we're going to hold off until this thing ends, there were some that were like...
How did those new relationships establish during COVID? Was that from the distributors, or was that through your efforts?
Both, thank gosh, for Zoom. Being able to just
So
Zoom
business just carried
and,
on in some respects.
Yeah, it really did. And we were able to, really focus on, like you said, the sanitizer. We, definitely served a lot of Lebanon and donating some of that. But, it just gave us more time to work on different flavors and different finishes and really figure out how we can come out stronger on the other end of it, and try to keep up. I started a TikTok where I make cocktail videos.
Nice.
What else was I supposed to do? Yeah.
So we love TikTok. We're on TikTok for Beats, Beds, and Browns, and professionally as well for our for-profit business. It's its own beast.
It is. It really is.
Do you manage the TikTok? Are you the content creator for TikTok?
I try.
Yeah. How about the other channels?
Yeah, we do Instagram, Facebook. TikTok definitely is just like some silly videos, and people love seeing anything that has to do with, pulling samples out of the barrel, and it's an interesting way to be able to tell our story, that's for sure, because it could capture the jail and videos and stuff in the history a little bit better than I think Instagram and Facebook has been able to.
Bourbon TikTok?
Yeah, exactly.
Bourbon TikTok? Oh, yeah.
Bourbon TikTok.
And you have a corporate beverage sales career, is that right?
Yeah, so I started in the industry. Well, I started actually with a soft drink company, but that's not as fun. So I switched gears into spirits. I was a sales rep, so front line selling to, customers, and totally unrelated to the family business, which was important to me because I really wanted to learn outside the family business first.
Well, sure, and something like that gave you the experience to handle a well-known brand.
Mm-hmm.
What was applicable as you transferred into a lesser-known brand that you maybe have to work harder to gain that connection?
That's a great question. It was definitely, I had a pretty solid book when I was selling, and but it still stood that it's a relationships-based business. Yeah. So creating the relationships with the stores, following through with whatever you're gonna say, yeah.
Are there restrictions in terms of, you having sales efforts and then the distributor having sales efforts, and can they overlap or complement each other? Or?
They complement each other. I like to think that, the distributor sales reps are like my coworkers, I don't know how much they agree with that. But, yeah, I call them all the time, like, hey, I just went into your account. They're going to place an order, and it really is like a team effort because I don't think I could sit, in an office all day and think about, like, I hope someone's selling our product, is out on the streets, mentioning our brands. I think that that's totally something that we have to do.
Yeah. Very cool. Where can we buy all of these wonderful spirits that I can't wait to sample?
Oh, that's a great question. So we're in Indiana, Illinois, Colorado, Georgia, Kentucky, Florida, and then expanding to Texas soon.
That's amazing. All right, well, I don't want to hold up the tasting anymore.
Okay, let's do it. Sounds good. All right, so first we have the Hoosier Vodka. This is 100% Midwest corn. We called it Hoosier Vodka because, everyone loves a Hoosier. My mom's a vodka drinker, and she's pretty cutthroat. She would drink someone else's brand if we didn't come out with a good enough product for her.
It's very smooth. Not a lot of fuminess. Goes down easy. It's very nice. And
yeah.
I'm not an official taster by any means, but as a connoisseur with the accent of sour, that's very delicious vodka.
So it's interesting. So vodka legally has to be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. And I'm like, how boring, right? But I really think that ours, it's smooth, one, and it does kind of have a little bit of, I want to say, texture to it.
Well, it's got a sweetness to it on the back end that
yep.
is unexpected.
Mm-hmm. And vodka is a category within its own. I mean, it's a beast, right?
Where would you place this? This is on the rocks. This is a lime. This is a mixer. I would put that as a straight vodka.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could do that. I mean, whatever. It's at a good price point where you can really use it in a batch cocktail kind of thing too. Around the lake, go enjoy that in some boat.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, that's more gin. I like gin as my boat drink.
Okay.
So we'll go to this one next.
Sorry, Mom. I haven't had gin since I went through a window in college.
Oh, that is so funny.
We'll be safe today, though. Don't worry.
So everyone always says, like, oh, I don't drink gin. Like, I've had a terrible experience with gin. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but gin's different now. Oh. Gin is... It's really...
Gin and tonic with lime used to be the go-to.
Exactly. This is more of a New World style, right? So there are some juniper berries, but it has some, lemongrass, orange peel. We have 9 ingredients in our gin, 9 botanicals, right?
Oh, wow.
So a lot of distilleries, when they make gin, they throw botanicals in bags, kind of like a tea.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would have tea in the tea bag and you would dunk it in the liquid. We actually put the botanicals directly into the still.
Okay.
So I think it just gains much more flavor from that. This is really fun to make a gin and tonic. And it can also quickly become a fall creation because there is some cinnamon, coriander in there as well.
I would see the cinnamon really augmenting the flavors that are coming through on there. That's delicious.
So this is the barrel-aged gin.
So that's the same gin, and you just put it into a barrel?
Yep.
So you get the same smells of the citrus, and on the back end flavor, it's just like a whiskey.
Yep.
But it's weird in the middle, like my uncomplex palate here.
Has anyone ever taught you the Kentucky Chew?
No.
We're an Indiana distillery, and I fully believe in the Kentucky Chew.
Please.
So when you're tasting a bourbon, you pour it, you kind of go down your face. So you look at it, look at the color, bunny sniffs, right? But when you're smelling whiskey, always make sure that your mouth is a little bit open at least.
Yeah.
And then when you taste it, the first taste, you should really swish it around your mouth. Kind of let it touch every taste bud in your mouth, because when you're tasting something that high proof, it could kind of throw off your taste buds a little bit. And then that second sip that's when you're really going to get the flavors.
Got it.
That was, I could thank my corporate training
the
for that
Kentucky
one.
Chew, we'll be chopping that up and sharing on social. That's awesome.
So this bottle is kind of fun because this is actually from our first batch of bourbon. So I don't take this out for everything, but
so this is a straight bourbon, you said? Or?
Yes, it's a straight bourbon.
And this is the 4-year?
Yeah, it's actually our first batch ended up being 5-year barrels, which is.
So what do you guys recommend as the use of this bourbon? Is this an old-fashioned bourbon? Is this a straight bourbon? Is this whatever you choose?
This is a sipping bourbon.
Sipping?
Yep.
Okay.
Up front, you're gonna get more sweet flavors, caramel, butterscotch, and then on the back end, you get more of those flavors associated with rye, and it's just gonna make for a longer finish. It's very sippable, dangerously sippable.
4-year bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Kennard and Drake.
Kennard and Drake. My two favorite men.
Delicious.
Never met them.
What's the history of Kennard and Drake?
So they were quite the schemers, and we really appreciated that about them. So that's why we named it after them. So they were surveyors that had heard inside information that they were looking for a county seat in central Indiana. So they had gone out and they actually purchased a bunch of land that they had felt that maybe that's where it would be.
Okay.
And that, go figure, that's where they picked the county seat to be, so they made a lot of money off of that. Now that would be super illegal, but some serious
it's only
opportunists.
illegal if you get caught. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. In the 1800s, it's fine.
And this is...
So this is our toasted bourbon. This is our first specialty finish. So it's aged for 4 years.
Toasted versus charred.
So yeah, the toasted barrels are toasted over a small fire for a longer period of time. A longer period of time meaning like 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
A charred barrel is a big fire for a short period of time.
So this is much sweeter.
Yes.
And finishes, again, none of this has been a fuming experience, which is nice. And I would say on the taste side of it, it's the sweeter, the vanilla, the caramel, the nuttier flavors.
So when they toast the barrel, it gets a lot more of those flavors. It kind of caramelizes more.
Is it all oak barrels or?
Yes. And then, when you take a char bourbon, it gets like more smoky flavors.
Yeah.
So we liked the toast. And my favorite part, the toasted, the label looks like a piece of toast. So
nice.
Super fun. So we use 2 different stills in producing this one. So we use our column still and our pot still. When you use a column still, it allows it to go higher proof each floor it's at. I'm not sure if you're familiar with column.
Yeah, I've seen stills. I don't necessarily know, I get it, right? Because the higher evaporation point, the higher it goes, that means the more alcohol is getting up to the top.
But then we also have some off the pot still, which kind of softens the other.
What should I expect here? This is a big pour, by the way.
So it is 100 proof. People brace themselves when I say that, but it doesn't go down quite like 100 proof. It's so much more flavorful than vodka, in my opinion, because in moonshine, unflavored, or original moonshine, you don't have to strip away that flavor.
Yeah, interesting. It's completely different than the vodka. Similar level of sweetness, and hitting the tongue in a different spot, which I know means different taste bud appreciation, but that was very smooth.
Sweet. Glad you like it.
The Kentucky Chew dictates 2 sips, so I have to.
Yeah. And then next we'll do the lemon drop.
Lemon drop.
Yeah.
Right. Look at that label art. Can you show that to the camera? That's amazing.
So it's super fun. I actually have gotten messages from random people saying I look like your label. I could be your spokesperson. I'm like, think that
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And one of them was like, ooh, wow, you do look a lot like him.
There you go. Okay, so this, I'm getting the similar citrus tones of the gin.
Yep.
But probably augmented.
So we're actually using very real natural ingredients for this. So a lot of flavored moonshines can, have syrupy taste and be
like
pretty
the
much
love
syrup.
of a forbidden woman. I just want to say, whoever's doing your marketing is top notch right there. Like the love of a forbidden woman. I'm going to see.
These are a little lower proof. I like to think that we were doing these, ready to drink cocktails before it was cool.
Yeah.
And
So lower proof, but way sweeter.
yeah.
And in a good way.
Yes.
Like it's this should be on the rocks in a sipper. On a boat, maybe, as you
Exactly,
mentioned. Yeah.
exactly. It's a boat drinker for sure.
Who on the shelf are you guys competing against, if you don't mind answering that question?
A lot of the, there's a lot of different big, like Old Smoky is a flavored moonshine. There's like the sipping cream, Sugarland.
Okay.
Ours are made with all real ingredients, so it doesn't have a syrupy taste to it at all.
Yeah, sweet without being like soda sweet.
Yeah, and I think that, if you were to take a regular moonshine and want to make a cocktail at home, I feel like we've done that for you in a bottle using ingredients from, a store.
All right, are we apple pie moonshine?
Yep, apple pie.
It's American as apple pie.
Yeah. So this is, again, super simple ingredients. It's basically apple juice, apple cider, cinnamon, and clove.
Okay.
Love that sound.
Is this the base? Is the moonshine
Yes.
always the base? So this is 50% too? No, this is
No, that's
100, but the
proof.
additives bring it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one's 60 proof. So it's a little bit more, but...
Okay, so this smells like apple cider.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this smells like it's going to be delicious.
We're using real apple cider in there and apple juice and probably an apple cider and apple juice they bought from the store. I like to think that, flavored moonshine, those people who say that their uncle used to make moonshine or whatever, this is how they would make their flavored stuff.
It's actually smooth and like dangerously smooth.
Yes, yeah.
Because you're like, oh, an apple flavor, and then all of a sudden you're on the floor. That's what I would imagine how that goes.
Yeah, it's fun too. Like using the real ingredient. Sometimes the cider comes out to be like a little bit of a different color, and but that just comes with using better ingredients for people.
Yeah, and I mean that's what cider looks like, right? Is it comes out a little cloudy and you're transferring it. So I'm worried about this one, the absinthe, but we'll see. She claims it's fine.
It's
Yeah.
good. So
I had my first absinthe in the Czech Republic, so bear with me, guys.
Okay, so this one has fennel, anise, and wormwood, so the trifecta, if you will, but we do add some other goodies, and it's another trade secret. I think the Poet's Potion is probably my favorite label, because the jail is on it.
That's the actual distillery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Lebanon?
Yep. And there's, in the front of the building, that's, back then the sheriff used to live at the county jails.
Okay.
So like, you walk in that front door and it very much feels like just a house. I mean, it feels like there's bedrooms, there's a kitchen, there's bathrooms, and then you go through a door and you walk into a jail.
Nothing that you anticipate from what that's going to smell like is what it tastes like.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a ton of the black licorice.
Yes.
Wow. That's actually really good as well. What's the proof on that?
125.
Okay. So that'll be my last sip, yeah.
But
no Kentucky chew on this one, guys.
But it doesn't go down like it.
No, and that wasn't fumy at all, and it was very smooth. And like I said, you smell the fennel, you taste the black licorice.
Yep.
So that's impressive. Yeah, very good.
And last but not least is brown jug bourbon cream.
This one just tastes delicious. They're like, add it to coffee, add it to sipper,
I
do
really
whatever
like
you
it in
need.
a milkshake.
Like ice cream, and bourbon is how this is made.
So it's bourbon, cream with real dairy, and a hint of maple.
Okay.
People associate the bourbon creams with the holidays, but I totally see it as more of a summer treat. I'm like, let's put it over. It's really easy to put some ice and that in a blender, and it kind of comes out the consistency of a milkshake, and it's a boozy milkshake.
I could see that for sure.
And this is actually the one, our almost ready flavor is root beer float. So the amount of people that have told me I will be putting this in a root beer float, and I'm like, that's
almost
genius.
ready flavor. That's what's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So coming down the pipe is going to be a brown jug spirits root beer float flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid I'm going to like this one too much.
It's really good. Yeah, I think it's the perfect one to end on too. 'Cause very much dessert. It's maple, so breakfast, but it's also just a good dessert drink.
Yeah, that's definitely one that is dangerously good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's only 34 proof, so don't worry.
If you're like me and you like the root beer float at the bottom as it mixes with the root beer and the ice cream, and it's at its creamy best, you know, to add a bourbon cream or even a root beer float flavored brown jug,
yeah,
that's dangerous. Mm-hmm. That was delicious. And with that, we end our interview. Nicki,
yep.
Thank you for getting me drunk this afternoon.
No problem.
I appreciate the sampling, and now I have new bourbons to add to my collection, and gins and vodkas to sample, and moonshines to add to the boating mix. So I couldn't appreciate your time more, and welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation. So
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And you giving, people like us, small business owners, to talk about our craft, and it helps. So thank you for your work.
Whether just me or whether the audience, this will drive more sales for us. So this is great.
So, thank you.